You never realized how far he went beyond what he could do until silence began to reveal details that once seemed invisible. There was something in him, a silent strength that didn't shout but held everything in place. He never needed applause, never asked for recognition, but you felt that something in him bent as if every limit he had was secretly broken, just so you wouldn't get hurt. He had his own rules, lines he would never cross, principles that shaped his existence. But when pain threatened to touch you, he simply abandoned them. He broke his own inner order so that chaos wouldn't reach you. And now, if you take a deep breath, you'll notice something curious. Part of the weight you carry isn't yours, it's his. It's the invisible residue of what he endured in silence, so your path would be a little less harsh. Maybe you never realized. Maybe you think it was just a coincidence, or that it was simply fate. But when you look more closely, you'll see the traces. You'll notice that behind every moment you almost crumbled, there was a presence leaning into the invisible to hold the ground beneath your feet. It wasn't luck, it wasn't chance, it was a choice. And that choice came at a high cost. Because breaking internal rules isn't easy. It means giving up pieces of oneself. It means bleeding in silence so you wouldn't be hurt. If this has ever happened to you, comment, "I needed to hear this." What hurts isn't just realizing the sacrifice, it's realizing that maybe you never thanked him, never looked him in the eyes and said, "I know." But now you know. And this knowledge opens a wound and a healing at the same time. Because when you recognize it, something within transforms. You begin to see that his protection wasn't weakness. It was strength in its purest and quietest form. You may have never stopped to reflect on the invisible weight he carried. Not the weight of his own mistakes, but the weight of the choices he had to make to protect you. He didn't care about hurting himself, as long as your skin remained intact. And the strangest thing is that, amidst all of this, he never asked for anything in return. Think about it. How many times did you believe you were alone, that no one was watching, that no one cared, but somehow, something prevented you from completely falling? That silent barrier had a name, a face, a heart. It was him. He broke his own rules. And not just any rule. He broke the ones that shaped his own identity. He had a code, an uncompromising limit. But in the face of your pain, that limit became too small. And so, the impossible became possible. He crossed boundaries he swore he would never cross, just so you wouldn't be hurt. This kind of love is not common, it's not human in the way it manifests. It's a love that doesn't need to be spoken. It's evident in the details, in the pauses, in the gaps. And that's precisely what hurts, knowing that he tore himself apart in silence without ever exposing the depth of his own sacrifice. Have you ever noticed how his gaze often drifted away? How at certain moments it seemed to carry secrets that couldn't be translated into words? That was the reflection of the price paid. Not for his own story, but for yours. And there's a truth that you might still resist accepting. He was never perfect. He made mistakes, stumbled, contradicted himself. But even in his errors, there was an invisible thread to protect you at all costs. How many times did you feel anger towards him without realizing what lay behind it? How many times did you judge his actions without noticing that they came from a place of absolute surrender? This is where perception begins to take root. When you stop looking only at the surface and start seeing the depth. He didn't need to break his own rules. He could have stayed intact, preserved. He could have protected only himself, but he chose something else. He chose to lose parts of himself so that you could have the chance to find yourself. And maybe you'll never fully understand. Maybe you'll spend your life trying to decipher the gestures, the silences, the decisions. But there's one thing that is clear now. You wouldn't be where you are if he hadn't done that. It's interesting how you only realize it after the fact. In the moment it happens, everything seems ordinary, almost trivial. But as time passes and you look back, the realization hits you like a wave that can't be contained. And then comes the question, how did I not see it before? How did I not notice that every detail had a hidden intention? Don't blame yourself. This is the mystery of silent love. Yeah, it doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it doesn't reveal itself, it just acts. And when it does act, it leaves marks that can only be read with the heart. If this has awakened something in you, comment below. It makes sense. But the truth is that it hasn't always been understood. Most of the time it was judged, called cold, distant, contradictory. But the distance was just a way to hide how much it hurt. The coldness was the mask to not reveal the inner fire. The contradiction was the price of trying to be strong when there was no strength left. And you, Have you ever felt the strangeness of someone sacrificing themselves without ever saying anything? That strangeness is the echo of what he did. An echo that transcends time and still touches you today. The greatest irony is that, by breaking his own rules, he didn't completely destroy himself. He transformed, and that transformation, though painful, made space for you to exist in a more complete way. You are the fruit of what he endured. Part of your light was born from the shadow he chose to carry alone. Now think with me. Would you have the same courage? Would you break yourself to protect someone if given the choice? This question doesn't come to condemn, but to awaken. Because deep down, life always presents us with moments where we must decide whether to uphold our own rules or cross the line to save someone we love. And when that moment comes, because it always does, the memory of what he did may be the key that guides you. You'll realize it's not just about strength, it's about love. And love knows no boundaries. It doesn't respect rules. It doesn't recognize limits. That's why when you think of everything he did, don't just feel gratitude, also feel responsibility. Because his sacrifice wasn't just to protect you, it was also to teach you. And that lesson is alive now within you. If you've made it this far, take a deep breath. Feel his presence in your body. Feel in the silence the echo of what he still supports. Because even in absence, he remains present. Even from afar, he continues to hold on. Even when broken, he stays whole for you. This is the great contradiction, and this is where the beauty lies. He always knew he wouldn't receive recognition. He didn't expect applause or gratitude. What drove him wasn't visible to ordinary eyes. It was something that sprang from the depths of his soul, an impulse that couldn't be explained through logic, only through love. And yet so many times you mistook this love for rigidity. You thought it was coldness. You believed it was indifference, but now, as the memory becomes clearer, you understand that behind each of his silences was a weight being carried in your place. He broke your rules, but he also broke his own body on some days. He carried more than he could bear. He slept less than he should have. He set aside dreams that were his to support yours. And even when he was utterly exhausted, he still found the strength to stand tall. Those looking from the outside don't understand. Those who live from a distance say it's an exaggeration, but you feel. There are noticeable marks in your own history that only make sense when you remember him. He didn't have to do any of this. Life would have continued just the same. Destiny would have followed its course. But what changes isn't what needed to happen. It's what he chose to do even when he didn't have to. And here's a revelation. True love doesn't stem from obligation, but from choice. He chose. He chose you above himself. He chose to bear the pain even when he had no strength left. He chose to cross lines he swore he wouldn't cross because he knew that if he didn't, you would fall. Can you feel the weight of that now? Can you see how each of his decisions reshaped your life? Maybe you've never stopped to calculate. But if at some point you have the courage to measure, you'll discover that almost everything you are today bears the invisible mark of that sacrifice. He didn't ask for anything in return, but that doesn't mean he didn't want anything. There was a hidden desire to be understood. Not in words, not in applause, but in silence. The silence of someone who looks at you and says with their eyes, "I know what you did." Have you ever given him that look? Or have you always believed you didn't need to? Maybe there's still time. Maybe not. But one thing is certain. He still lives inside you. His presence isn't just a memory, it's a part of your foundation. And when you breathe, there's something of him breathing alongside you. Now think, how many times have you repeated the same story? How many times have you broken your own rules, even unknowingly, just to protect someone you love? That's the invisible cycle. The love you received didn't stop with him, it passed through you, and now it flows, even if silently, to others. This is more than memory. It's legacy. Not a legacy made of possessions or wealth, but of invisible gestures. A legacy that shapes character, sharpens perception, and teaches by example. If that thought has reminded you of someone, comment below. I know what you're talking about. But there's something even deeper. He didn't just break his rules, he reinvented himself in the process. Because every time he let go of something, it wasn't just a loss, it was also a transformation. He became someone else, less like himself, but closer to you. This silent metamorphosis is one of the greatest proofs of love that exists. Love is not just about giving what you have. It's about giving what you can't give. It's about letting go of what seemed untouchable. And that's exactly what he did. To the eyes of the world, he may have seemed tough, maybe even cold, but you know it was just a shell. The armor needed to shield his heart from being crushed, and inside that armor was a heart that beat so intensely that it chose to break rather than let you be broken. Now, as you read this, you feel a strange mix of gratitude and pain. Gratitude for everything you've received, pain for everything he lost, and in that mixture, awareness is born. You can't change the past, but you can honor what he did. And honoring doesn't just mean remembering. It means living in a way that gives meaning to his sacrifice. It means looking forward and choosing to cross lines when necessary. It means somehow repeating the courage he had. You realize this story isn't just about him. It's also about you, about who you are becoming from what you've received, and about who can be transformed through you. Life is an invisible thread of silent sacrifices. He broke his rules to protect you. One day, you may break yours to protect someone, and thus the flame never goes out, and when this cycle continues, he will never be forgotten. Because every gesture of yours will bear his mark, every gift of yours will carry the invisible DNA of his sacrifice, and every person touched by you will, indirectly, be touched by him. This is the kind of eternity that few perceive, but you perceive it now. And that is enough to keep alive what seemed to be lost. He never sought glory. He never wanted to be remembered as a hero. He simply did what he felt was necessary, and perhaps that is precisely what makes him so great. The absence of vanity in the midst of sacrifice. He broke his own rules, not because he wished to show power, but because the love he carried was greater than any limit he had imposed on himself. It's this strength that you still feel today, even when you think you don't. How many times in silence have you asked yourself why you're still standing? Why certain doors opened? Why some falls were softened? If you look deeply, you will realize there were invisible hands holding you, and those hands bore his mark. He didn't need to stay, but he did. He didn't need to expose himself, but he did. He didn't need to lose, but he did. All so that you could have a little more life. And still, he did not boast. He didn't tell others. He didn't seek recognition. He kept in his heart the secret of his own sacrifice. Have you ever imagined the loneliness that represents? To suffer for someone without ever being able to say, to break your own rules without ever being able to explain why, to carry pain without being able to share it. This is one of the heaviest burdens anyone can bear, and yet he endured. Now you understand better why there was a hardness in his gaze, why he seemed distant at times. It wasn't contempt. It was the reflection of an internal struggle. He was breaking inside so that you wouldn't be broken on the outside. This is the kind of love that transforms everything. A love that cannot be contained in ready-made phrases. It cannot be reduced to easy words. It can only be felt, and when it is felt, it changes the perception of those who receive it. You are changing now. You realize that much of what you lived was sustained by something greater, and you start to feel like you can't live as if that never happened. Life demands an answer, and your answer is to honor. To honor means not to waste the chance he gave you, not to waste the doors he kept open with his own body, not to waste the future he secured with the present he sacrificed. Do you feel a lump in your throat now? That lump is the soul recognizing. It's the body reacting to the impact of the truth. It's the conscience waking up to something that has always been there, but that you didn't have the courage to face. He broke his own rules just to protect you. And that phrase echoes like a sentence that can no longer be erased. You carry that echo now. And at some point, you will repeat it in your life, whether in silence or in action. And when you do that, when you break your own rules out of love for someone, you will feel that you're not alone. Because in some way, he will be there again, present in your gesture, present in your gaze, present in the silence that only those who love can sustain. If this realization has already touched you, comment below. I needed to understand this today. But the journey doesn't end here. There are even deeper layers to be revealed. Layers that will show that it was not just protection, it was also preparation. He didn't just prevent you from falling, he prepared the ground so you could fly. And flying requires space. He opened that space when he chose to break himself, and without that you would be stuck even now. Think about this calmly, take a deep breath, and let the silence speak. This was just the beginning. In the next video, we will dive deeper. Click and continue with me.